Hi everybody. So in the next couple of videos I'm going to be talking about people's questions, okay? The questions that people sent me based on my last post. This morning I'm going to be talking about dependency. Actually, I'm going to be talking about independence, codependency, and interdependency in relationships. What are those? Okay, those are three different things, and those are three potential actually those are the three potential ways a relationship can be defined. Every relationship falls into one of those boxes: independence, interdependence, and codependency. Okay, and so to describe what each looks like energetically, I'm going to use stuff that we know. Okay, so to describe an independent relationship, it's where you get like one of the parties is water and one of the parties is oil. Okay, when you take oil and put in water, they don't mix, right? These two parties are independent. They function independently of each other. Okay, it's kind of like taking water, or rather oil, and putting in water. There's no exchange going on between both of them. There's no exchange of energies. In other words, they live together, but they really aren't exchanging anything. They can be harmonious. They can be like actually pleasant together. They can actually live together, without fighting or anything. But the relationship will ultimately not be fulfilling because both of them are not sharing anything. They're just, each living on it, doing their own thing, independent of each other. Okay, does this make sense? Now, a codependent relationship, it's kind of like one of the parties is water, the other party is salt. When you take salt and put in water, what happens? The salt disappears in the water. You don't see the salt anymore. The salt ceases to exist, right? So what happens is that one of the parties to the relationship becomes consumed by the other person, and she ceases, or he ceases to exist. Okay, so the person that they were before, their ego, what they liked, who they were, their friends, just who they were as individual, completely what do you say? I can't remember. I'm trying to say something I can't remember to say. Completely alters to become a reflection of the other person, or to become a reflection of what the other person wants. So who these people are as individuals ceases to exist. Of course, you already know that it's not just the person who is doing the depending that is in danger here. The person who is being dependent upon also. Because what happens is the situation has to be ripe for such a relationship to exist. In other words, one of the parties has to be willing to be dependent upon by the other party. It just does not happen randomly. Okay? So this is not a healthy relationship. This is not healthy. Now the third one is interdependence. Okay? This is where you take crushed red bell pepper, and pour it in water. So one of the parties is red pepper, crushed red pepper, the other one is water. Once you take that and put in water, what happens? The water changes color, but you can still see the water and still see the seeds of the pepper. Both of them still retain their unique identities, even though the water changes color, but the water is still there. In the situation with the salt and water, the salt disappears. Situation with oil and water, they both stay separately. There's no union, there's no merging, right? Salt and water, salt completely loses itself in water. You don't see the salt anymore. But when you take red bell pepper, put in water, you can still see the red bell pepper, you can still see the water. So there's two independent people or two individuals coming together in a relationship and being able to relate with each other while still being able to function as independent people. The fact that the water changes color and becomes red is an indication of the symbiotic relationship between both people. But still, the water still remains the water, and you can still see the pepper. Does this make sense? So let me give you a personal example how I have been in a codependent relationship and I'm in an interdependent relationship, and I can tell you how those two played out. When I met my ex, my hair was bald. I've always had my hair bald, but for some reason, by the time, and I didn't own a skirt, I never, because I was like in my rebellious, fuck guys phase. So when I met him, I didn't own a skirt. I was like, I've always been, the jeans, high heels type of person. And then when I met him, by the time that relationship was over, I did not own one pair of jeans. I had only skirts and dresses, and I had grown my hair. Because somehow I was so dependent on him for validation and for a strong sense of self that I lost myself in him and allowed him to modify me. Okay, so when that relationship ended, I had completely lost myself by the time it was over. Okay, now moving on from that, having learned all the lessons even while I was in it, I'm now in an interdependent relationship, and I'm going to explain to you how this works. Interdependence means that both parties are dependent on each other in certain ways. Okay, so for me, my man is dependent on me for his ego, and I'm dependent on him for his emotion, for my emotional support. Now, the reason why this is because astrologically, he has his sun conjunct Neptune. Okay, when you have your sun conjunct Neptune, it makes you very sensitive to other people. It makes you very sensitive to other people's feelings, about you, to other people's thoughts about you, and stuff like that. So he gets hurt easily, he gets bruised easily because his ego is tied to Neptune. Me, on the other hand, my ego, which is my sun, is conjunct Uranus. Try. I mean, very few people, I don't even know, I'm like ice water. Like not even ice block is what I'm like. Right? So nobody, I don't care about people that much for them to actually impact my feelings. Now, my emotions, on the other hand, is a totally different story, but you have to get past my ego first to get into my emotional space where you can have that kind of effect on me. So I'm stronger. My ego is stronger than his own, right? So he depends on me for that ego support. So when somebody hurts him, I'm the one who comes out, what, who did what now? What? Does it make sense? So he depends on me for that. Now, my moon is conjunct Neptune, just like his sun is conjunct Neptune, right? So in my moon, I am very sensitive. I'm very sensitive to people that are close enough, people that have made it past my sun, that have come into my inner sanctum. I'm very sensitive to, people's feelings. I'm very sensitive to actually what goes on in the world, people's pain and stuff like that. He's not, because his moon is in Virgo. So he's able to be pragmatic. He's able to be realistic and not be, as emotionally involved in things as I am. So he's able to support me emotionally. So when I'm going through stuff, or when I saw some, or maybe I see some things that hurts me, I go to him and I say, hey, this is what I saw, or this is what somebody did, and he just be like, sweetie, it's not a big deal, just don't worry about it. So he supports me that way. You see the difference between the two relationships? So we're able to be individuals and yet be able to support each other, versus the last relationship where I completely lost myself in it because the guy was weak. And so that's what I was trying to say about codependency. Codependency happens because a weak person, finds a weaker person. And so they use that weak person or the weaker person to build up their own ego, and one of the ways they do it is to try to alter you to suit them. Does this make sense? Independent people are actually two people who are in a relationship but do not have any form of symbiosis going on. They are not helping each other. They don't have that flow of energy going back and forth. Does this make sense?